All right, let's hear from a few more people in the audience. We do this on the Friday show via Discord at davidpakman.com/Discord. Let's go to Janelle from San Antonio. Janelle from San Antonio, welcome to the David Pakman Show. Welcome back, I should say, really. What's on your mind today?
Hi, David. I'm so glad that you called on me today because I'm a little bit more prepared
Oh, good.
than I was last time.
Beautiful. What's going on?
I wanted to talk about the school vouchers that the Texas uh, government is about to vote on.
Yep,
Uh, I just wanted to talk about how they take away funds from the public schools and give it to private schools who do not need any more money.
yes.
um, and it leaves kids with disabilities almost no choice, the families of kids with disabilities, to stay in these underfunded public schools if this does pass, because private schools don't have to comply with the
That's right.
federal protections for kids with disabilities.
So let's say a few
And
things about this. In general, these voucher programs are mostly a disaster. At the very top level, they take money that could go to public schools and they send it to a private school, diverting money that is very needed in public schools and often not so needed in private schools. There's accountability issues because public schools are often held to certain standards that at least are known, public, and verifiable, even if they don't all meet the standards. Whereas when you divert that money to private schools, you're diverting taxpayer money to schools that aren't even held to the same standards. And then what Janelle is getting to is that this can essentially exacerbate segregation of different kinds, economic segregation, sometimes racial, etc., by diverting this money and grouping students in different ways. And one of the areas that's a real problem is the impact on students with special needs, because two things happen when you use the vouchers and divert money from public schools to private. Number one, the private schools aren't always equipped, nor are they necessarily required to serve special needs students in an appropriate way. And by taking some of that money away from the public schools, you also hurt the funding of the public school and its ability to be equipped for those students. So Janelle, you're absolutely right. And this is one reason why these voucher programs are a disaster.
yes, exactly. And you hit on the fact about the other obstacles it's putting up for uh, people with less financial means, because these vouchers, they don't even cover the full price of tuition to these
That's right.
private schools.
Yeah.
So it leaves the burden on the parents to pay the difference.
It
And
becomes a race to the bottom. It becomes a
it
race to the
does.
bottom where the private school is not an option for many of the parents. It worsens the public schools. And this is a feature for many of the right wingers that do this. They do this because they see it as a way to start worsening the public schools to eventually argue for even broader privatization. They know exactly what they're doing.
I know they do. They have this whole plan, and
Yeah.
I hope someday to hear you talk about it more. Is the um, Project 2025,
Yeah. We'll talk about
and
it again.
uh, Governor Abbott, he must follow these guys to the letter, because when I hear them talking or I read their plan, it's like Governor Abbott wrote it himself, but he must just be following along.
All right, Janelle, great to hear from you. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, David. Have a good day.
You too. There goes Janelle from San Antonio. Let's go next to Luke from Philadelphia. Luke, welcome to the David Pakman Show. What's rattling around in your brain today?
Hey, David, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I was just thinking about sort of like the geopolitical landscape. Are you familiar with like the concept of the end of history?
If by the end of history you mean the tendency that we have as humans to consider where we are right now sort of the culmination of the story rather than just an arbitrary point within it. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, more or less. So that
Okay.
was like a big concept in the wake of like the end of the Cold War in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about how China is kind of like taking that place as like the world superpower that the US is kind of like balanced against. And I was thinking about like the Belt and Road Initiative and China's play in Africa and stuff like that, and contrasted that to the US's sort of like reduction on the world stage. I'm not sure how to put it exactly, but we've kind of had like decades of US intervention globally, and it seems like more countries are more like leaning towards China rather than the US.
Like which
So I was
countries?
kind of wondering. I know in a lot of Africa, they tend to not really ally themselves with the U.S. Um, I think Nigeria is a pretty big one, but I know even in places like Canada, I know I've heard stories of um, like a lot of housing and real estate is being bought up by like Chinese developers, and that's like they're kind of buying a lot of influence in big like I
Yeah,
think
we've talked
Vancouver
about that,
and
including in
Toronto.
Vancouver. Yeah. Did you
Yeah.
have a question today, Luke?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just kind of wondering, like, do you think that this trend will kind of continue where the US kind of becomes more isolationist and China becomes like the foremost superpower?
I don't think it's necessarily about the US becoming isolationist. I think it's that, at least as far as the Africa examples are concerned, both China and many African countries are behind where the US is today when it comes to industrialization. They're at an earlier stage. And so it actually makes some sense that there would be, I don't know that I'd call it a natural alliance, but I certainly understand why we might see that trend taking place. The other aspect to this is that because China is in this super fast industrialization and economic growth stage, even if they're lying about their GDP growth, they're still industrializing faster than the US because they're behind where we are as far as that goes. That requires vast amounts of natural resources, many of which are abundant in Africa. So it makes sense that they would try to
Right.
strike deals with African countries there in exchange for help building ports, for example, and other infrastructure development. And then, like diplomatically, I don't know. There are African countries that have shifted recognition when it comes to Taiwan to be more in line with China's one China policy. Although I don't have examples in my head. I just know that China likes to do business, or maybe even requires. I maybe don't know enough about this to say for sure, but China prefers and may require that to do the type of business with them that some African countries are doing, you recognize China, not China and Taiwan. And I think African
I see.
countries are widely open to doing that. So that's like a diplomatic fit as well.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. The other thing that I kind of was thinking about between like contrasting China and the US is that China is very, I guess, like authoritarian,
Yes.
and they're able to move against certain like issues very quickly compared to like the U.S. or other
Yeah.
like
That's
European
a
countries.
feature of authoritarian countries.
Yeah, so I wonder like when it comes to something like climate change, do you think that China will like right now I think they're the biggest polluter, or they're definitely like one of the biggest polluters in the world.
Yes.
I don't know about per capita, but definitely like gross. Um,
Yep.
do you think that they will they'll be able to make a shift, or like do you think
They
the
will they
US will
will and would be able to. Here's the thing.
yeah.
And this is not unique to China. Lots of countries that are behind the US when it comes to industrialization are making the case that, hey, yeah, all this climate stuff is great, but it's easy for the US to make all these demands because you've already, quote, fully industrialized and we haven't yet. So we'll do some of this stuff, but first you've got to let us fully industrialize and grow our economies and whatever. And this is a way to simplify the argument that's being made. India and China and Brazil to some degree and other countries, they, I'm sure, would be willing, to the extent that it's beneficial from an optics perspective and economically beneficial, to go in the direction of green energy, et cetera. But they also want to have the opportunity to fully industrialize and garner all the economic benefits before they go headfirst into that. And that's, I mean, listen, I don't have an answer to that right now. Are they entitled to? We know more now than we did, sort of, but at the same time, I don't know. But that is certainly going to be an impediment for sure.
Do you think that there's a way to industrialize while staying green?
Probably. I'm
Like
not an
using
expert
green?
in this, but
Okay,
I'm guessing that there probably is. Although maybe it's more rapid or less profitable. I don't know, but I think it's a really
I
interesting
gotcha.
question to research.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, David.
All right, my friend Luke from Philadelphia. Great to hear from you.